How about a hand for the first New Zealander to stand up here, Jim Richards.
Jim Richards is an amazing man. I learnt more from Jim Richards away from the track than I learnt at the track. We're 20 years apart almost exactly, and we could be brothers, you know, we're great mates.
But the crowd should be ready to salute Jimmy Richards, and that they do.
When you look back on icon of motorsport, not only in Australia, New Zealand, an all-rounder.
We all get called legends, and it's very complimentary, but he is one of them.
A rare talent and a guy who thoroughly enjoyed driving whatever he put his backside in.
Look at this, Johnson on Mountain Straight. Dick gives him the thumbs up and a big smile.
But he's got the inside run to the next corner, so Dick loses out on that one.
Jim was top class in every sense of the word as a motor racer.
Here he comes. A great cheer for Gentleman Jim on his way to victory.
Gentleman Jim is exactly what he is. He's one of the fairest guys I've ever raced against. Always gives you a little bit of room, just enough, but not too much.
Here's Gentleman Jim down the inside. We'll sort out the business end of this arrangement.
And for all the fallacies of Gentleman Jim, don't know at all how he ever got that. I think he must have made it up himself.
Richards down on the inside and spins seat and pushes him out of the way.
I was a bit loose. He was diving in for an opportunity. It was a championship to win, and I look back on it and just go, it was great to be able to compete against a guy like that.
Jim's one of those rare talents. He's a guy that's raced all sorts of cars.
It's been a long time since we've seen a BMW lead a touring car round, and it looks like the master Jimmy Richards has been able to pull off a sensational start.
He was the best touring car driver in the world. At his best, he was an unbelievably good race car driver. Superb car control.
Jim's going to range up here on the outside and takes the lead.
And that was a very clever piece of driving from Jim Richards.
All right, it's very unique. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Very kind. Welcome once again to the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. Great to have your company again today, folks. And we're back at Shannons in Melbourne, and we're surrounded by some exotic cars in a wonderful location that screams automotive. A great pleasure for us to be here. Now, very shortly, we're going to catch up with another Australasian legend as we continue our journey through the Ep7 Motorsport Library. We're going to catch up with Mark Osler and talk about a classic car, a race car that's got some great pedigree. And we're also going to catch up with Aaron Noonan, who's been going through the Ep7 Library and finding absolute gems for us along the way. Looking forward to that. Our special guest today is the Racer's Racer, a great guy, and to this very day he continues to race competitively and races very effectively. It is my pleasure to welcome an old friend, 7-time Bathurst champion, Jimmy Richards. Richo, thank you very much for coming. Great to have your company. How did it all start for you, and when did it all start?
Well, it started probably in the, I suppose, the late 50s, and driving go-karts in New Zealand, and in those days you couldn't buy a go-kart, you had to actually build one, so my dad built one, and you know, went onto the clay tracks and the quarries and started there.
I can recall when we were roaming the country years ago, you telling stories about anglias and all sorts of weirdness. Give us a little background on that.
Well, in New Zealand, basically, when you started, there was only one class, and it was called all-comers. And so whatever you brought along, you could race. And so the car that I started racing in was a Ford 105E Anglia. And that was mainly because I could only just afford it with the help of the finance company. And the fact that they were very, very reliable. And so I started in the Anglia.
So how did you end up over here? At what point did you say, look, I need to jump across the ditch and race in Australia?
Well, without going into a long-winded story, I ended up here because Sigtrome sponsored a Ford Mustang that I raced in New Zealand in the early 70s, and that sponsorship period came to an end. A friend of mine bought the car on the proviso that Sigtrome Australia would sponsor it, and we'd bring the car to Australia and race it here. And so that's how I got here. I thought I would come over once every now and again and do a race and then fly home to the family in between time.
So Bathurst for you, it started in 1974, immediate success. You were third in the first year, as I recall.
That's right, yes. A good friend of mine, Rod Coppins, bought a car from Holden here and sent a guy by the name of Jandals over to look after it, and would you believe that he actually looked after it and prepared it at Fred Gibson's road and track in Sydney, and I didn't know who Fred Gibson was at that stage. So he prepared it, we came over and ran.
Must have been a great thrill to jump on the podium very first visit there.
Oh, listen, we thought we'd be lucky to finish. And in actual fact, the morning of the race, we didn't have any wet weather tyres. We had to arrive in the morning of the race and try and buy a set of wet weather tyres, which was hard to do.
Do you remember the first time you drove around there, and what were your thoughts?
Well, we'd driven around there obviously in the loan car, rental car type thing. But yeah, in those days, I mean, as young drivers, you were never overawed by anything. It was a racetrack, it had a barbed wire fence to a huge drop down on the inside of the track, but you were never going to go over there because you were too good a driver, you know.
Power of positive thinking.
So you took things as they came, but it was an awesome track, and it still is.
You're a hard man to find in those early days when we went through the Ep7 archive, but we have managed to find a little gem from back in 1975. Check this out.
Someone who looks as though he could do to be in the same place as Jim Richards from New Zealand there, just opening the bonnet. You can see the steam or smoke issuing from the side. But came third last year in a Tirana. A very wet drive. He and Rod Coppins are the two in this car.
Did you manage to resurrect it?
No, I hopped back in it and drove it back down to the pit road and let the boys look after it, yeah.
That was all over. Now, the Brock years were extraordinary, weren't they? So you started driving with the Holden dealer team in 1978 and you drove those 3 successive years to victory with Peter, which is just an amazing achievement in itself. I think it's worthy of a round of applause to turn up and win and win. How did you meet Peter?
Well, basically, when I drove with him in the first time in '78, I got a ring from his accountant, and Brocky's accountant rang me and asked me if I'd like to drive. I said yes, of course, straight away. Told me what the arrangement was, and it went from there. But Brocky and I went to Perth, not together, just happened to be in Perth driving at one of the enduro races at Wanneroo. And it was in the middle of when the plane strike was on, or pilot strike. So we all both had to get back to Melbourne to do other things. So Brocky, Bev, and little James was an absolute baby at that time. Brocky found an XB Falcon, and we drove non-stop from Perth to Melbourne. And that was my first time I sat down with Brocky.
Well, you got to get plenty of quality time with him on that journey, no doubt. But an amazing sequence to be able to go up there and for 3 successive years pick up victories. And I've spoken to you about this 1 or 2 times before, and it was in those days the job of the co-driver to effectively do that middle stint in the middle part of the day. Was that a hard thing to do?
No, it was easy, to be honest. I remember the first time that I went there, I did 6 laps of practice. And the car was polished, it was groomed, it was over-polished again, and we just went out and drove, and I just got on and did what I was told to do, and it was terrific.
All right, we'll have a break now on the Shannons Legends of Motorsport. We'll watch Jimmy at work and doing a great job in 1980 when he and Peter managed to pull together their 3rd successive victory. Stay with us.
Too long before these flags come out. Here it comes, the checkered flag for Peter Brock and Jim Richards. Richards at the wheel. A great finish. Peter Brock now makes it 5 Hardy Frodo successes.
You won't say much this New Zealand. Come on, Jim. Come on. Oh, mate. He's a clear, isn't he? Thanks very much. Just thank goodness he drives for us and not the opposition. I'd just like to thank Peter for a great run. Thank the Holden dealer team for having me along again. It's the sort of thing you can get to like, I tell you.
Jim Richards, a slow talker, but boy, a fast driver, gets the green flag.
Here he comes.
Oh, what a sensational view. This is Race View. A new addition to our coverage here at Mount Panorama for 1983.
A lot of people thought there were going to be maybe 2 or 3 Mazdas in the top 10. But the John Player BMW is there, and certainly one of the leading contenders for an outright victory here tomorrow.
Murray's corner comes up so fast. Take the left-hander. The checkered flag is out. For Jim Richards at the end of his flying lap in Hardy's Heroes, and the time about to come to hand.
Time coming through for Jim Richards, 2:18.41.
Welcome back, Shannon's Legends of Motorsport, and as you can see, we've now moved on to the BMW years, and our special guest today is Jim Richards. And so, after the Holden dealer team era, obviously put something together there with Frank Gardner and BMW. How did all that come about?
Well, it was a bit of a strange thing, really, because, I mean, I kept getting people ringing me up and telling me that Frank Gardner was starting a new team. He'd had an association with Gracie before that, and they needed a driver, and that I was on his list. And I said, well, no, Frank, no one's talked to me about that. So anyway, eventually, with more phone calls saying that I was driving for BMW and for Frank Gardner, I decided to get Frank's number and give him a ring. And when I rang him and I said, Frank, I've heard these stories about that you're starting another team and that you might want me as a driver. And he said, well, he said, young fella, he said, at the moment, there's nothing happening. But if there was something happening, I could be interested in a good driver like yourself. And hang up, and that was it. So eventually, and probably another month or so took place, and then all of a sudden Frank rang and offered me the drive.
Do you enjoy working with Frank? Unfortunately, he's passed on, but he was a guy that you worked very closely with for a long period of time.
No, I did, and he was fantastic, absolutely brilliant. I mean, I was in Melbourne, the team was in Sydney. I never did any testing in the car at all. I did no practice in the car. Frank did it all. And every time I drove it, it was better than the last time. And he would test it, drive it, and he was a great guy.
Well, in 1985, the category changed again and the name changed to Group A. And we've got something here of Jimmy at Adelaide International Raceway rounding up Peter Brock. Check this out.
We're 10 laps into the Australian Touring Car Championship. And here comes the challenge on the outside again. Jimmy Richards. Brock goes in even deeper. Richards setting him up this time. See if he can pull the white line. He can't. Through Humes and down to the S's again. This might be a chance. Keeping the pressure on. I don't know whether Brock will want to give way. He won't. Jim's going to range up here on the outside and takes the lead. A beautiful pass that time from Jimmy Richards in car number 62. He's taken over the lead.
Adelaide International Raceway, and great to see that vision there. Brock in the Commodore, Dick was just behind there in the Ford Mustang, and that Group A car that you drove, the 635, was a great car and ultimately delivered a championship for you in 1985.
No, it did, but the BMW at that stage had been racing 635s in Europe for probably 5 years. So the car was a ready-made, complete package, reliable, did everything really, really well, apart from start, because in overseas they had rolling starts, so the clutches weren't that good for standing starts. So in 85, I don't think I ever got to the corner in the first 3 or 4 cars. So it was always a matter of coming back through the field, which was absolutely great fun. It was a great time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
We'll come back and discuss 1987 very shortly after the break, and we'll go to the break and celebrate more of Jim's success in the 635 BMW.
For the 62, the black Bavarian machine. Oh, a little smile on Frank Gardner. And the last corner comes up, round 9. The better brakes, 100 strike. Another one up to Big Jim. He's first across the line. Brock goes for the game. Richards has got to take a very deep, hard breath here and go in almost 10.
If he can snatch that line from him and ultimately take some road off him and really jam Brock's nose into the inside of the corner, he'll get away with this because then he can cover his tracks coming out. But at the moment, he's always going to have Brock as a nightmare as they come up to the left-hander at Coca-Cola because he's got the inside running. And he's just got a couple of extra miles an hour.
There they go again. Door handle to door handle, round 2.
Well, this time he's got room if he can just close that gap. I think he has very successfully. So Jim Richards up a slot using every centimetre of the road.
Good job. Did a lot of hard racing there with Brock. As we look back through the ages, we can see you guys having plenty of battles. Good to race against?
Oh, fantastic, yeah. A real gentleman in a way. Very hard racer, but no, if you were good enough to get on the outside of him, he would give you room. But I think it was mutual. If 2 drivers had respect for each other, then you could race side by side, no problem.
It was a great battle in the closing round of the championship in 1987 at Oran Park. You and Glenn Seaton, there was a lot at stake. Give us your view of it.
Well, the race started well for us, and Larry gave me a bit of a short back and sides coming off the bridge, which dropped me down, I think, to about 5th place. And the two Nissans had got away a little bit, and during the course of the initial part of the race, it started to drizzle with rain. And I just kept pressing on as best I could, and slowly but surely I caught them up and managed to pass George and followed Glenn for a few laps. I knew where I was strong, and but I couldn't get past. And in the end, Glenn made a slight error under brakes. The car sort of stepped sideways, and I arrowed down the inside. He recovered, pulled across, and we hit. And I went on to win the championship. But fortunately, Glenn didn't finish the race because of a turbo failure. So it wasn't my fault that he didn't finish, which was good.
You didn't necessarily have to go up and say sorry at the end of it. Let's have a look at that marvellous championship finish at Oran Park in 1987.
Cheers have already started. The final corner comes up. The checkered flag is at the ready. And the man who takes the Touring Car National wins the championship. Jim Richards for JPS BMW. Peter Jackson, this is George Fury closing on him like lightning at the finish.
Good stuff, Richo. How did you manage to hang on to the whole gentleman tag when we all know the reality is you're a tough racer?
Yeah, you are, but there's a matter of being tough and fair, you know. I mean, I've been involved in quite a few, you know, fisticuffs and dents on cars, but at the same time, I can...
With who? We'd like to know who.
Oh, listen, lots of guys. Glenn Seaton. No, lots of guys. But the thing is that I prided myself on really saying to myself that I never ran into anyone deliberately. Now, I might have made a few errors in my judgment, but never really just nerfed someone for the sake of gaining a position. And so I sort of kept true to that through all my career.
It's clearly worked. You've got great respect amongst your peers. We're very pleased today to be able to have a couple of Jim's cars here, and I'd like to thank Jervis Ward, who's provided the little BMW M3. Give him a round of applause, and that was a great little car, as you just saw. And we've also got one of Richo's Nissans here, and it's appropriate to introduce now Mark Osler for another Shannons classic car.
Thank you, Neil. This is the Nissan Skyline HR31 GTSR that played a big part in Jim Richards' victory in the 1990 Australian Touring Car Championship. You know, it's probably the least likely winner of Jim's 4 championship-winning cars, because at the time, everyone was copying a merciless flogging from the Ford Sierra RS500. But a rule change in 1990 really changed the game. They added 85 kilograms to the weight of the Ford Sierra, which gave these cars a fighting chance. Looking back at these cars, you know, Gibson Motorsport at the time were building the fastest and the toughest HR31s in the world with a huge amount of local input. This car in 1990 was carrying about 1,185 kilos of weight, so it was the same as the Ford Sierras. Under the bonnet, a 2-litre twin-cam inline 6-cylinder engine, turbocharged, about 450 brake horsepower and race trim, which was less than the Sierras, but under those circumstances, with the longer race formats, it was actually an advantage because it was easier on the rear tyres. An Australian-made Hollinger 5-speed competition gearbox, a beautiful independent rear suspension under the tail, which was perfectly tuned to the Yokohama radial tyres of the era. You know, the strengths of this car are its durability and its consistency. The lap times it would do on lap 1, it would still do on lap 51, and Jim was able to use that to maximum effect in the early rounds of the championship while the team waited for the new GTR supercar to come on stream. He won 2 rounds on the slower tracks, he scored plenty of points on the faster tracks, and that set him up for his championship victory. Of course, we all know that the GTR just swept everyone away at the closing round at Oran Park to wrap up the championship for Jimmy. But it can never be forgotten that this car did most of the hard work in getting there.
Thanks, Mark. Great car, and clearly we're going to talk about the Nissans coming up after the break very shortly. But just before I do, Jim, I want to spend a moment discussing the little car that's behind us there. So you went back to Brock's in 1988. How did that deal come about on the back of the Gardner years?
Well, Frank's health had deteriorated during '87, and at the end of the championship, they informed me that the team would be disbanded, more or less, you might say, and that you know, I would never drive with that particular team. But in the meantime, Brocky had done a deal with BMW to take over the cars and equipment and truck and run it under Mobil colours. And I think part of the deal was that I went along with the cars.
You were like a component.
Exactly, I was a part of the deal type of thing. So in '88 I drove, obviously the car that I drove in '87, more or less, for Peter in Mobile colours.
And there it is.
And there it is there,
yeah. And there were 3 of them, and I'm very pleased and proud to be able to say that it was a privilege to be able to work with Jimmy in that 1988 year together with Peter. And in fact, it leads us to Aaron Noonan, who's got an interesting family album item from the vault. Aaron?
Well, Neil, as we go to the break on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport, I've dug this out of the vault. It's the old Amaroo Park Raceway. It's the old Amscar series, in fact, from 1988. It's a famous bloke in 05. It's the bloke on the couch in car number 1, and it's a lad from Ballarat in car number 7. Have a look at this as we go to the break on Shannon's Legends of Motorsport.
And even Crompton has jumped in front of Jimmy Richards.
And certainly has his gentleman Jim down the inside. We'll sort out the business end of this arrangement. Crompton wants to go racing on the outside, but Jim sneaks up the inside in the number 1 car. That advances him to 3rd. Bond, Longhurst, Crompton. That's the order. Whoop, someone's had a big lock up there just ahead of the BMWs. Jimmy Richards goes a little wide, and here comes Crompton back on the inside. Brock tailing. Hey, there having a hell of a race here. Able to bring you pictures both out of the headlight and of course our race cam, courtesy of Nissan Motorsport here at Amaroo Park for round number 1 here today. They come down to the lake corner, the short straight now to the next right-hander, and you're going to ride home with the winner of the opening round of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Series. It's almost checkered flag time as Jimmy Richards comes up, and Richards beats the Sierras on day number 1 of the 1990 series.
Welcome back. Great to have your company today. Jim Richards is the topic. As you can see, he's done an awful lot of winning in Australasian motorsport. So we've moved on now from the BMW years, Jimmy, and clearly talking now about the Nissan. The Gibson Motorsport move, how did that deal come together for you off the back of the Brock deal?
Basically, in '88, Brocky and I broke down in the BMW Bathurst. Brocky hit a tyre in the middle of Conrod Straight and ripped all the oil coolers out of it. I was just walking up the back of the pit complex at Bathurst, which was just, you know, not a complex in those days. And Fred was walking towards me, and as we passed, he stopped and said, "Oh, listen, Richo, what are you doing next year?" And I had no idea at that stage because Brocky hadn't had anything to go after the BMWs at that stage. And so Fred just said, "Listen, give me a ring when you get home. I'd like you to drive for us." So anyway, when I got home to Melbourne, I gave Fred a ring, you know, and an arrangement was struck. And I ended up driving for Fred for many years.
What meant a lot to you back in those days? Was it race and round wins, or was it, you know, winning those Bathurst races, or was it putting together a championship? Because lots of drivers got different points of view on this one.
No, I'd much rather win a touring car championship than Bathurst. I know that sounds silly, but it's what you said is right. You have to put together 8, 9 races, or in nowadays like about 30 races to win the series. And I think that's I think it's more demanding to actually do that and to keep the points rolling on and make sure the cars still finishes races.
And I reckon the tough part about what you did in 1990 with that car, to jump from one particular type of car to a very different one within a championship season, that's completely unheard of, isn't it?
Yes, I suppose it is, but to jump from the HR31 to the GDR was very easy.
Yeah?
Well, you just pointed it in the right direction and put your foot on the accelerator.
Pulled the trigger. All right, well, let's have a look at the man in action once again at Oran Park.
Gentleman Jim is just spread-eagling the field in the Nissan GTR, and there he goes.
Well, they'll know how hard they can run their engines, and at this stage it'll be really in Jim's hands. The championship is in his hands. He knows what the tyres will deliver for him. He knows how to hold the car in a nice, gentle position and still make good lap times. He'll be working himself to death in an attempt to be easy on the car.
And it's still quite hard on its brakes and quite hard on its tyres. It hasn't been pushed along today, so to some extent it's got the most ideal conditions that it could run under. At Wanneroo it was under pressure as the checkered flag comes out, and a win to Jim Richards. And Richards, the champion for 1990, and giving Nissan their very first Australian Touring Car Championship. Tremendous performance from Jim, the team, Fred Gibson and the company.
Very different car, wasn't it? What was it like to drive?
It was fantastic, and you know, as the years go by and the cars you drive get more later model, which that was, of course they just step up to another level. And although the HR31 was one of my favourites, the GTR was expected to win because it was four-wheel drive, it was twin turbocharged, it had more horsepower, but it was still quite a hard car to drive because of its weight.
Can't talk about GTRs and we can't talk about 1992 without talking about the moment, which is obviously one that all motorsport fans are well and truly aware of. It's been done to death 1,000 times, but I just want to get inside your head on this one. So we're standing on the podium. There's the reaction to that race where ultimately you're awarded the win because of counting back the lap. When you saw the hostility of the crowd and the vibe of the whole thing, just give us a bit of an insight as to what was going through your mind.
Well, the hard part about the prize money at Bathurst is, of course, that third place goes out first, which was you guys. So you started to get a little bit of a battering. And then, of course, second place goes out, which was Dick, and he was robbed. I mean, the race should have been his. So the crowd was getting more sort of G'd up, more G'd up as time went on. And so a few cans had been thrown, and Mark and I were in the Hardy Frodo pavilion at that stage. So Scafie was putting cans of Coke and stuff in his pockets to throw back. And I said, take it easy. You know, I was a senior guy in the car. Take it easy, Mark. Like, you know, just forget about that. We'll just go out. We'll have our say for the sponsors, and then we'll be having a beer shortly, you know. Oh, OK. So anyway, finally our turn comes to go out there, and of course the reception wasn't brilliant. But it's a strange thing when you're up on that podium that you really can't hear that much what you're saying for the actual noise of the crowd around you. So, you know, and what I said at the time was just I suppose a frustration in not being able to thank our sponsors because of the noise and dodging the beer cans. And so I said what I said, and it was just a spur of the moment thing. And as I said, like a minute later, Scafie and I were having a laugh out the back, having a beer.
But you not only dodged the cans, you sort of dodged the bullet a bit to some extent too, because it sort of became a bit of folklore and fun to a degree, and there were people that turned up with T-shirts that said I was one of the you-know-whats.
Well, the next year we went there, you know, I had to sign a whole lot of T-shirts, and it says, I'm a you-know-what, Jim Richards told me.
It's fantastic. So look, we're not going to play that clip because we've seen it inside out in so many other ways, but what we will do is show you something from within the 1992 race, because I didn't realise this until Aaron started to do the research in the library, but you had to contend not only with beer cans flying and all sorts of problems at Bathurst, you had some problems with a fire extinguisher as well.
Yes, apparently a problem there with the fire extinguisher inside the car. It's gone off, as you can see, across to the right. It's covered one of the lens with foam.
Just up to the top right-hand of the picture, you can see the foam all over the race can.
Jim wouldn't appreciate if we asked him to come in and just clean the lens for us, would he?
That's the shot.
That's the shot. That's why we can't generate race cam out, because the fire extinguisher's gone off inside the car. Actually, it's spitting.
We lost a bit of fun there. Let's have a look at it. Don't let it put you off, Jim.
About 1.5 laps remaining.
I get the idea here, Mike, that Jim Richards isn't actually just following Mark's escape. I think if there's an opportunity here, he might just be capitalizing on any disadvantage that Mark is feeling.
Well, he's trying to get down the inside, is he? But Mark's closing the options off. No team tactics at play here, I wouldn't think.
Amaroo Park, Australian Touring Car Championship. This is the Shannons Legends of Motorsport, and now, as you can clearly see, we've moved on to the Holden, and it took a little time for you to adjust to a very different car to the GTR. I think a win came at the back end of the championship at Oran Park, but along the way it was a little bit of a battle. What was it like to jump from such a dominant vehicle, four-wheel drive, twin turbo, to go to the V8 category?
Well, it was difficult because it was a bit of a different driving style really for us. Because we just started building the Commodores, we probably didn't have anywhere near the power that some of the other teams had that had been working on that project for longer than us. But yeah, I mean, we just probably struggled a little bit.
One of the other things when you talk Jim Richards and you discuss it with race fans is they recall your drives in the wet. You know, you've always been very good at getting the most out of the car in the wet. Why is that? Why is it something you enjoy doing, or is it just is it a incorrect label?
Well, no, I mean, I've always enjoyed driving in the wet, providing the car goes good. And people often ask me, you know, why do you go so good in the wet? And I say, well, I've always thought of it as a young guy, and even now, it's just a dry road that's a lot slipperier. So you still try and brake as late as you can, you still try and accelerate as hard as you can, yeah, just treat it as a dry track that's very slippery.
Well, it's worked for you. So, in fact, we've got a little slice here of Wanneroo Park, Western Australia in 1993, which was the other win that you just described.
Windscreen wipers going. Who will win the race to the first turn? I tell you what, it might well be the Rainmaster, Jimmy Richards, who gets off at Crompton. Down the inside of Scaife, and John Bowe the outside. They've shuffled him out. Look at this, the two of them go off. Out goes John Bowe. Plenty of drama in this heat. The Rainmaster, they like to call him Gentleman, Jim Richards. Car number 2, the Winfield Commodore, leads them down the hill. Last corner coming up. And round number 8 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Commodore strikes and wins the round cleanly with Jimmy Richards in car number 2.
Jimmy Richards there disappearing into the mist for a win in Western Australia. The other thing about 1993, Jimmy, was I thought a great drive for you guys at Bathurst. Tremendous battle with Larry Perkins. Ultimately, you didn't beat him, but that would be a very satisfying motor race when you race that hard all day and so competitively.
No, it certainly was, and especially when we're just the first year of having the Holdens. But you know, sometimes the best races you drive aren't the races you win, and that was particularly great race for Scaife and I there.
The other thing, if we have to stick labels on you, is very apparent when you look through your history, and you're still racing competitively and successfully, I might mention, to this very day, is just the wide array of categories that you've succeeded in. I mean, you've just done an extraordinary job over such a long period of time, and in fact, it probably leads us now to the vault again with Aaron Noonan.
And Neil, one of the venues where Jimmy did some of his most versatile work was at Calder Park in Melbourne. From the archive, here's a bit of Jim going one way in the Oscar, the other way in the NASCAR, and also in a big rig truck. Check this out.
Jimmy Richards started out of position number 8. Up there running in 5th spot at the moment as they come off turn number 2. Looks for the inside on Hansford as they come down the back straight, and right behind him it's Kim Jane, who's also starting to make up a lot of ground as he comes up on the inside. There's Jimmy Richards going through on the inside of Greg Hansford.
There's Jim Richards coming up through the pack, and he's back in about 9th at the moment, I think.
It's going to be pretty hard for Jim
10th
to break clear of that. He's behind Girdlestone, Barry Blake and the Sheraton Hotel entry.
And away goes too, with a lot of determination, Jim Richards out dragging Barry Sheen, and already he's building up quite a remarkable lead, is Jim. And Barry Sheen is under some pretty heavy pressure there. There's Richards. You can see how well that track's drying out.
It's unbelievable, Richo. 1 minute you're going one way in an Oscar, on the same day you're then going the other way at Calder in a NASCAR, and then we see you racing a truck there. You genuinely are a versatile man. It must have been so difficult to get your head around going 2 different directions at Calder on the one day.
Well, no, it wasn't too bad because you always knew that you were always sitting on the inside of the corner, no matter what way you were going. But listen, I tried to do everything that I could in any car I could. I wasn't worried about whether I come first, second or last. Winning was never an obsession. It was just a bonus of competing well and sometimes, you know, doing the job well.
Can I just run through some of Jim's achievements, because they really are quite extraordinary. 7-time Bathurst winner, 78, 79, 80, 91, 92, 98 and 02. 35 Bathurst 1000 starts, which is an industry record. 12 podium finishes at Bathurst through that period. 4-time Australian Touring Car Champion, 85, 87, 90 and 91, as we've been enjoying here so far today. 23 Australian Touring Car Championship race wins, 16 poles, 2 Sandown 500 wins, twice Australian Endurance Champion. Got to take a breath, keep going here. 3-time Australian AMSCAR champion, also champion in Australian GT production, NASCAR, Nations Cup, Carrera Cup and Touring Car Masters, and 8-time Targa Tasmania winner. That is brilliant. And as I said before, still active today. You clearly love it from the inside out.
No, I certainly do, and obviously I haven't got a real job, so I've got to keep doing it and pay the bills.
On that subject, I can recall back in the really early days when you turned up, you actually had a Bob Jane T-Mart at one point, didn't you? So you kind of mixed your racing with a regular industry role as well.
Yeah, when I realised that motorsport in that era couldn't sustain a family of three, I had to go and get a job, and my cousin and I bought a Bob Jane T-Mart from Bob, a franchise, and yeah, and really Bob Jane made it easy for us to get into that T-Mart, and we succeeded, and that's what set us up for the rest of life.
All right, well, it's obviously worked very well for you. After the break, we'll discuss Richo having a drive with his son and racing against him, which is pretty special, and we'll go to the break and hear from those who raced and worked with Jim Richards.
Sorry, paraprofessional. He drove as quick as Peter. Didn't crash, didn't scratch the car, just did everything right, just perfect.
I think it's important in motorsport that people have a general ability to compete in different categories and do it successfully. And certainly Jimmy could drive anything.
An all-rounder as in circuit racing, rallying, his tarmac stuff that he does in Targas and things like that. His results show you how good he is. And as a man, he's a gentleman.
But the reality of Richo racing at his best was hard. He was just as good as you would ever drive those cars in that era. He was an extraordinary man.
Fantastic driver, yeah, great driver. I mean, the gentleman Jim thing is, you know, played up a bit, but a great race driver. You know, when you can race as long as he has at the level he has with the results and expertise he's got, you know, I mean, you can't. I couldn't say enough good about him, truly.
Oh well, Jim's the ultimate professional, isn't he? He's devoted his life to motor racing. He's won in everything that he can, and we all get called legends, and it's very complimentary, but he is one of them.
Oh, I think Jim will go down in history as probably our best driver. I know that other people think somebody else might be, but I just think, well, I think I might say our best driver is a New Zealander for starters, but Jim can drive anything. A great driver and a good person at that. You know, I think, you know, he was always called Gentleman Jim. Of course, he apologised to you after you punted your wall. So.
Yep, he was a hard racer, there was no doubt, and probably 87, sorry, at that last round at Oran Park. Mate, I was a bit loose. He was diving in for an opportunity. It was a championship to win, and really, do I look back on it and say he dudded me? No, not at all. It was the best on the day. He was the best on the day and the best that year, and I look back on it and just go, it was great to be able to compete against a guy like that who so many people do put him up there, and his rewards should be put up there because he's an awesome race driver, and to be able to compete against guys like that makes you feel pretty good.
Some lovely words there from competitors and from guys that you would have raced very hard with over a long period of time. Nice to see that stuff, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, yeah. No, it's great because, as you say, I mean, you race hard, you run into them occasionally and everything, but I think if you can also stay friends off the track without getting too much, you know, biff and barge, it is good.
You've also enjoyed the rare privilege of racing with and against your son, which is something that very few people get to do in motorsport at the level that you get to participate. That must have been a great thrill to pair up with Stephen at a point and also to race hard against him, because there's been a couple of cracking races. No, it was fantastic. I mean, I think every parent likes to think that their kids sort of will follow in their footsteps in some way, whether it be a daughter or a son or whatever, but Steve had to find his own way in the very early days because I was busy doing my thing, you might say. So he's done extremely well, and when I left Gibson Motorsport in 96 I think it was, I went to Gary Rogers. Gary rang me and asked me if I'd like to drive with Steve, and I said, yeah, I'd love to. And so I gave up you could say the factory drive with Fred, and I went and drove with Steve, and I was only there as a co-driver. I wasn't there to take any limelight or
to hog the car. I was happy to be, you know, the guy that hopped in the car in the lunchtime stint, which you used to do years ago. And where we had some great races together. Bathurst, we came second together at Bathurst in '97, I think it was. And that was as good as a win, because it was just great to be on the podium with Steve. But also raced against him at many Bathursts and many other races, and it's been fabulous.
Impressive and no doubt satisfying that when you look through your CV, the winning has occurred through many different race teams and different marques of motorcar, and the winning continued despite you moving around from team to team. You did it again with the Holden Racing team, and you did it with Volvo as well at Bathurst.
There's been a change as we go to tape replay.
Yes, this is going to be very interesting here in a second. Watching Stephen coming up here, he's very close now. He's alongside Jim. Jim's got the corner, unless Stephen swings in front of him, and it looks like he's thinking about doing it. A bit cheeky. He might have thought, well, Dad won't hit me. He may not have done that with any other competitor. That was a pretty nifty little move.
Oscar, NASCAR, Super Touring, V8 Supercars, sports sedans and all those things we've covered off, and the winning continues. It's been a fantastic performance. I'd like to remind everybody about the Shannons Club, by the way. Why not join today? It's easy. Just jump online, create your own virtual garage. You can discuss favourite topics on the forums, enter the latest competitions, find a car club or event, plus you can watch catch-up episodes of all the rare footage and the material that we've gathered for the Shannons Legends of Motorsport, all as a part of the Shannons Club TV experience. Richo, you are an absolute evergreen. Congratulations on all that you've achieved over such a long period of time. Faye, your loving wife, deserves a medal for putting up with you for so long and disappearing out the door for 50 years of car racing, but you've got to be pleased with your body of work.
No, I certainly have. I mean, obviously, you know, it's been a part of my life and my family's life for, you know, 50 years, you might say. But Faye and I still get together occasionally. Driving the truck to Darwin together, or driving to Perth.
It's true, but I ring him, that's what he's doing. He's in the truck driving there. Would you please thank Jim Richards, our very special guest today. Thanks, Richo. Been an absolute pleasure to spend time and to relive some great moments. Hope you've enjoyed our program and look forward to your company again very soon for more of the Shannons Legends of Motorsport.
I have a huge respect for Alan Moffat and the level of professionalism that he brought to the sport.
Tremendous 2:21.59 to Alan Moffat.
Gets a bit emotional at times.
I don't want to sound sour, Greg.
I loved his intensity.
Alan Moffat comes round.
Always was the bad guy, but when you actually got to know him, he was a very genuine, really, really nice person, and not what his persona looked like as a child watching him on television.
He was the best touring car driver in the world. At his best, he was an unbelievably good race car driver. Superb car control. He was extraordinary.
All right, he's a very unique.
Thanks very much.